So how in the world is this not treason?
So wait. Did y'all hear that? This video is brought to you by Extreme Tees. Click on the link below. Make sure you put Kevin in the promo code and you'll get a 20% discount.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. We almost never use the term deep state on this show. There's something about it that sounds paranoid, even a little nutty. The term then and now suggests that our democracy is fake. Elections and domestic politics are just a sideshow. No matter who you vote for in the end, the same people still run everything. That's a pretty dark understanding of the American system.
Yeah.
If you're a normal person who grew up here, it is the last thing you want to believe about your own country. It seems crazy. And then you read stories like this one. According to reporting this summer, in the days after last November's election, Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, held a meeting with senior military officials at the Pentagon. Milley wanted to inform them of what he described as a serious threat to national security, a threat so grave that it imperiled, quote, the stability of the republic.
Now, as I'm listening to this story here, this developing, I'm thinking Mark Milley, the same Mark Milley that said, yeah, I want to know more about white rage. That Mark Milley, the same Mark Milley that came out and tried to distance himself from Donald Trump when he was in that photo, that Mark Milley, I'm sure that if it was that major of a concern, he went in to talk to President Trump, who is his commander-in-chief, and to tell him about it, right? And say, Mr. President, here's my feelings. I think we should go on and do this. Here's my recommendations, right? I'm pretty sure that's what Tucker's about to say, right? Because we don't want to be like Alex Jones and all of them with deep state conspiracies, do we?
That threat, Milley said, was the sitting president of the United States.
What?
Donald Trump had dared to question the election results. For this, Milley explained, the U.S. military might be required to use physical force against the president. We're the guys with guns, Milley said.
Now, do you know how mad I am listening to this? Do you understand if this was a Democrat president that was being undermined by a pretty much a Republican or conservative military chief or, general, whoever he was, do you understand how quick they would court-martial him? How quick they would prosecute this dude for undermining the president? How many investigations would be called? How much treason would be slung out there all over the place? You're telling me the fact that this man is secretly plotting and plotted against our president doesn't require a indictment of treason? Are you kidding me? They was calling Trump a treasonous person before anything came out. Every single time this dude came to the mic, he's committed treason, all this stuff, he's a Russian agent. Let's hear more about this, because I'm sure all of the news is going to pick this up. This is going to be the biggest story since what, Russiagate?
Apparently he'd been preparing for this moment. Milley had similar conversations with the director of the CIA, Gina Haspel, as well as with the head of the NSA, Paul Nakasone.
So that one lady, Gina, that everybody was kind of liking for a while, was liking her, came across as a conservative, but then she was secretly meeting as well with Milley and all of them. I'm sure what they ended up doing is saying, whoa, man, Milley, what are you doing? Okay, all right, Millie Vanilli or Tilly or whatever your name is, Tilly Manilli. See, I'm sure they went to him and said, dude, what are you doing? We can't be doing this. This is treason, man. You know what? You're out of line. I'm sure that's what they did. Let's see.
He'd also spoken directly to Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, Donald Trump's chief political rival.
Okay, so wait, you're telling me that this dude who was under the president's leadership circumvented him, went to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to conspire with them. Y'all, when Tucker broke this story, I'm not even gonna lie, this one made me drop my head in like despair and anger. I wanted to just rip a telephone book in half with my feet. That's how mad I was. Wouldn't even need to use the hands. My feet, I could have ripped it in half. That's how upset I am hearing about this. But what's going to make me even madder, and probably you too, is the response of the guardians of our democracy, the media. After hearing what I just heard, I'm thinking, man, they are going to let Tilly Manilli have it. And Nancy Pelosi and all of them were the investigations. But instead, let's see what happened.
Now, according to a new book by Bob Woodward and Bob Costa, Milley apparently went even further than that. On October 30th of last year, Woodward and Costa report, Milley called his counterpart in China, that's a general called Li Zhosheng. Milley did not tell his boss, the president, about this call, either before he made it or after. Here was Milley's message for the Chinese military. Quote, General Li, I want to assure you that the American government is stable and everything is going to be okay. We are not going to attack or conduct any kinetic operations against you. And then reportedly, Milley said this, quote, General Li, you and I have known each other for 5 years. If we're going to attack, I'm going to call you ahead of time. It's not going to be a surprise.
Y'all hear this? There is your insurrection. Right there. We're listening to it. When you have the ability to circumvent the president, you collude with his political opponents, you conspire with an enemy of our country, China, and yet you're telling them, don't worry about it, man. I got this. You don't need to even talk to Trump no more. Talk to Millie, Vanilli, talk to Tilly, okay? I'm the one running the country right now. Y'all, there's the insurrection. Not one thing that they have ever complained about in regards to Trump could even if it was true, couldn't even come close to what we're listening to. If this right here is true, which I'm waiting for Tilly, Manilli, Vanilli to come out and address it. If this is true, I better see some hearings. And I ain't talking about the superficial ones. I'm not talking about the ones like Nasty Pelosi had those fake behind police officers come out. Yeah, they said bad things about me. This right here is the real threat to our democracy. Man, calm down, Kev.
Let that sink in. Quote, if we're going to attack, I'm going to call you ahead of time. It's not going to be a surprise. So according to this account, our country's top defense official secretly colluded with our chief military rival to undercut the elected president of the United States.
Treason.
How would you describe that?
Treason.
Deep state is not strong enough. That's treason. It is a crime. And apparently Mark Milley is not the only person who was implicated in this crime. Others knew it was happening as it did. Our intelligence agencies almost certainly heard Mark Milley's call. If they can read emails from a cable news show on Fox, what are the chances they were aware that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was speaking to a senior Chinese general?
Probably 100%. See, just like they also knew that laptop of Hunter Biden's was his. Just like they know Joe Biden is compromised by China. Just like they hid that laptop in that cabinet until after the election. But there's no such thing as the deep state. Just like they all got together with Joe Biden and planned to go after Trump with Russia collusion narratives. Yeah, just like that happened. Just like all of the stuff us who've been watching this for the last 6 years have witnessed. And we know it to be true and covered up by the media. All of that stuff, just like the Trump hotel was wiretapped, all of that stuff, remember? All of that was just crazy. We were conspiracy theorists. We were Alex Jones folks, 10 foil hat wearing people. And now we're finding out all of that was true. Where's the outrage? See, this is what makes me mad because, see, the dummies probably are listening to this thinking this guy saved us from that wicked, evil Donald Trump. All he did was confirm that we don't really have the democracy or the republic that we think we do. We don't really have a leader that has the loyalty of his subordinates like Milley. Okay, there's people under, I guess, a real elected president that runs our country. See, because see, Joe, he's, that guy, he doesn't know what's going on. They run him. They put him in there. But with Trump, they couldn't control him. So instead, what did they do? Circumvent it. But yet we're crazy. We're the ones that's the insurrectionists. We're the domestic terrorists. We're the greatest threat to our democracy.
And what they were saying. Well, chance for about 100%. And yet the NSA did nothing about it. The CIA, meanwhile, was clearly fully on board with this. We are on the way to a right-wing coup, said Gina Haspel. She told Milley that. And in fact, there was a coup in progress, but it did not come from the right. It wasn't brewing in Alabama. Instead, a constellation of unelected government employees, loyal above all to the Democratic Party and to the permanent class in Washington, ignored the United States Constitution. And then they invalidated the votes of tens of millions of American citizens. How'd they do that? Because they invalidated democracy.
There you go. How did they do that? By demonizing the current president, undermining him by having all these moles in there leaking his phone calls, coming up with all these conspiracy theories, lying to him about what was going on in Syria and Afghanistan to keep us over there, all kind of stuff like that. That's how they did it. Trying to make everybody believe that this man was a Russian agent, knowing that that wasn't true. All of those things, colluding with the media, having all of these narratives pop up out of nowhere, harassing all of the folks that supported Trump and his cabinet, going after Carter Page, going after George Papadopoulos, going after Roger Stone, all of these things, all of these major entities, all of these major organizations that we as American citizens trust are doing the right thing. They were using it to go after Trump, which by going after him, they were going after us. And yet, every single time a raggedy Democrat get a chance to go to a microphone, they're whining about undermining our democracy. This is undermining our democracy, not a bunch of ragtag dudes walking around the Capitol with some MAGA hats and cell phones.
Democracy doesn't mean anything if the people you elect have no power. And Mark Milley did his best to make certain the elected president had no power. In early January, Woodward and Costa report, Milley called another meeting of senior officials at the National Military Command Center. He informed this group that they reported to him, not to the elected president of the United States. And that's not a small claim. The National Military Command Center controls, among other things, the nuclear weapons inside our missile silos, as well as the nuclear weapons on board our submarine.
I don't know about y'all. Just listening to this, I'm boiling. If 70% of this is true, this man needs to be brought up on charges of treason. If 70% of it is. And if he gets brought up on these charges, it should drag Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, anybody else who coordinated with this dude. This right here is what undermines the faith in our republic, our democracy.
So Mark Milley was seizing personal control of America's nuclear arsenal. He went around the room and demanded that his officers submit to his authority, not the president. Milley told them to follow no orders without first consulting him. According to Woodward and Costa, all present in the room agreed to this. So civilian control of the military was over. Mark Milley was in charge. If this is true, it is one of the scariest things that has ever happened in this country. You often hear people say they're worried about authoritarianism coming to America. Well, it's here. That's what this is. It's authoritarian government. It's government by unelected, unaccountable leaders who are willing to use violence to preserve their power.
And yet we have dummies in America that don't even understand that. They had them looking at Donald Trump as the tyrant. I mean, that's the dumbest thing ever. Who in the world is able to silence a tyrant, a dictator? They didn't silence Tilly, Manili, and all of them. They didn't silence Schumer. They didn't silence Pelosi. They didn't silence any of them. They silenced the president of the United States. All of this stuff that we're listening to right now, keep it together, Kev. That's all I can say, y'all. This breaks my heart because I love our country. And these people are evil. And it seems, as of now, they're getting away with it.
That's what this book described. It's shocking. Not surprisingly, our news media have spent the day celebrating it. It turns out the self-described defenders of democracy don't really believe in the system they claim to revere. The idea of giving voters power over their own government repulses people like this. So they're relieved to discover that, in fact, our democracy is fake. Here's a selection from some of today's programming.
Listen to this, guys.
I would call General Milley a hero. He behaved in a heroic manner.
But what he did was ensure the guardrails were in place. So I give him high marks for this based on what's described in the book.
I think Milley felt ill-used by the episode on Lafayette Square when he was used as a prop. So one can understand Milley's anxieties.
We are in a period of extraordinary danger. I think General Milley is going to be treated very favorably by history.
Y'all hear these paid actors? These owned by whoever, the CIA, whoever owns these networks or something, whoever is speaking through them. Did y'all hear these folks getting out ahead of this story, launching a preemptive strike, actually condoning treason? No wonder Trump said that the fake news is the enemy of the people. When you have perverted the minds of the people, when you are covering up this type of treason, this type of deception, when you are helping these unelected folks undermine the election, all of that. When you're doing that, you are the enemy of the people. Shoot. I mean, I know fat chance, but they should also be thrown in there with Tilly.
So you heard four people speak. The first guy you saw in that clip is Rick Stengel, and he's a moron, obviously, so there's no surprise there. The second guy was some retired military official. But the last two, George Will, Barry McCaffrey, these are people who, whatever you think of them or who they vote for, you would have imagined might defend American democracy when it came right down to it. But no, they didn't. They cheered its ending. They're happy to see Mark Milley secretly conspiring with the Chinese military to end civilian control of our Pentagon. So it turns out that's the government they want. And you should not forget that. So now that we know all this, what happens next?
And that's the question, y'all. What happens next? So what now? Y'all, we have taken a lot these last 6 years. We have watched the Democrats divide us, destroy all of our constitutional rights. They have demonized us. They have divided the country against each other. They have pushed false narratives of racism. They've destroyed our trust in our institutions. They've invaded every area of our lives. They've tried to shut down everything that keeps us together as a country: church, school, family outings, funerals, weddings, anything like that. They have done all of this. They have been busted time and time again, colluding to undermine our democracy or the republic, and they just keep getting away with it. Now, we have this. We have Afghanistan. We have November the 3rd and all of that stuff. And then they got the nerve to even go one step further, and they're trying to now push that we have to get the MOTS. And if we don't, we're going to be in trouble. And then they're about to come and hit us with some other stupid stuff like climate change. So all I could think of is one of two things. If this is not God saying this is the end, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If we're looking at, being on this earth longer, then this is the moment in our history that either we're going to be a free country, or these folks, this small group of globalists, they're going to run the country, one or the other. And the bad part about that is that half of our country would blindly, ignorantly, or willfully give up that power to all of them, because they have convinced them that we, the ones that see through all of this crap and exposes it, are the real enemies to our country. This report is heartbreaking and infuriating at the same time. We're going to see what happens. I'm waiting for a response from Tilly. Okay, now God bless y'all. I'm not even going to finish with all my extra stuff that I tell y'all to do at the end of the video. I'm too upset after watching this. I'm just going to say God bless y'all. God bless America. We need it. Take care.